Good morning, friends. It is good to be here this morning. Thanks for joining us here at Journey Home Meditation for the morning sit. We're going to share some breathing this morning together. It's a very holy thing to do, to share breath. It means to share spirit. So we're going to share spirit this morning. And we're going to have a little contemplation on some ideas, and I've got a poem or two for today. And all that is to say, I am very happy to be here today. I think before we get started, I'm going to a touch more comfortable. It was a chilly morning, but it's warmed up a bit as I've moved my body around today. I think it's time to start off with just a few breaths together. Take this moment to recognize what it is you are carrying today. Some mornings, what is more present is joy. Some mornings, what is more present is nostalgia. But see in your body, not in your thoughts. Just breathing gently and feeling what the breath is doing, feeling how the body is holding onto and letting go of that breath. And let's do just a few mindful breaths together this morning. We're going to be breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly and then releasing entirely the breath. It's a good practice. And let's invite the bell. Breathing in. And out. See what's there that wants to come up. Breathing in. And breathing out. Greeting that sensation, that feeling, that tension with a warmth and a welcoming. And breathing in. And out. Letting it go. Sometimes when I am picturing letting it go as I'm breathing out, I picture when you would blow up a balloon as a child and pinch the end closed and then just let it go. That balloon just goes mad all over the room. And there's always a shock to it. Even when you know you're going to do it, just what's it going to do? That's kind of how I feel sometimes, because letting it go doesn't mean saying goodbye to it. It means letting it go, letting go of my grasp, seeing what can happen. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen when I open this up? What's going to happen when I actually truly can embody the action of release? Just simple as opening the fingers and letting that balloon go. I love how association can work. How we can associate one feeling to another sensation, the smell of coffee in the morning, or maybe the way a breeze feels on our skin, we can associate to a time in our childhood riding a bicycle, or we associate an emotional feeling about a loved one to a sense of fear or loss or joy from the past. These associations. I like it a lot because I think I spend a lot of time in that work of associating, because I've spent a lot of time in my life in that work of dissociating, right? To disassociate from something. And that dissociation has been, for, I thought, my protection. And in many ways it was in my life. But the ability to reconnect, it's not only this like remedy for what I thought was loneliness, what I thought was being alone in this world. But it's also the pathway into healing. It's the pathway into finding what is there. So when I start to associate, if I don't stop myself and I allow that to start flowing, if I let it go like the balloon from my fingers, it goes all of these wild directions. But it takes up all of the space that it can before it finally exhausts itself and just falls. Boom. And that way of healing has been really helpful to me. It's been beneficial that when something comes up, I can breathe into it and move through it. Welcome. And so the act of reassociating is almost time travel in some ways. It's stepping backward through a series of thresholds that I've built in my body to sort of gatekeep myself away from the original sensation. And so I step through from one little reminder, if I can allow myself to step through all of those things and play through that feeling, I can get to something I stray away from using language like more pure, but it's something along those lines, something essential. I can get to something that's primary. That's the word I want to use, primary. The first of its kind. Poetry helps with this for me because I don't have to speak in full sentences and I don't have to explain myself. I can just explore that space the way that balloon that I released explores the room and just finds its way wherever it needs to go until it exhausts itself and it drops. And that's what it's like doing that work of reassociation, of going to the root, going to the primary. We spend a whole lot more energy avoiding that root than it requires to go to it. But we're terrified of it. We're terrified to go to those places where we first learned these things that we are now unlearning. And that unlearning is not forgetting. That's different. We're not forgetting what we've learned. We are understanding the ways in which we've learned something to be not the whole story. So it's time when we do that work to learn that there's a difference between letting go and forgetting. There's a difference between letting go and saying goodbye. Letting go means to allow it to open and to be what it is, what it truly is, beyond what we ever thought it could be. And that reassociation, to become associated with again, it's the way that our past just doesn't stay where it is. It doesn't just stay back there. It becomes history. History is what we carry. The past is what happened. Things don't really live in the past. They come from the past. They come from the past. Like seeing an old friend again for the first time, or in a long time, or smelling the smell of, something that mom used to bake when you were a kid, or those smells of Thanksgiving morning, when you wake up with all of the smells of all of these just different delicacies being prepared, sweet potatoes and turkey and all the things, somebody's peeling potatoes at the table. Like you can go back through all of those things through these senses. And it's something that just visits from the past, like an old friend or a ghost. And if you don't want to be haunted by that ghost, you make friends with it. You might remember Casper the Friendly Ghost from when we were kids. The way to live with a ghost is to be friends with a ghost. It's not to hide from it or exercise it. So I think about that this morning. I've been thinking about that all morning as I moved through some memories of childhood. Lovely memories in some ways and terrifying in others. The associations, again, are there, right? How we associate with what. And we may not be seeing all of the connections that we are tethered to with that memory. We may only think about the one memory, but it's tethered to all of these different things. It's bound to us. One of my favorite songs when talking about dying is Warren Zevon's Keep Me in Your Heart for a While. And one of the lines he says, he's talking about his own death. He knew he was dying when he wrote the song. He knew that it was coming up. It's a beautiful goodbye letter. First line that opens it up is, shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. When I leave you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. But then he goes on to say later in the song, maybe when you're doing simple things around the house, maybe you'll think of me and smile, 'cause I'm tied to you like the buttons on your blouse. Keep me in your heart for a while. I think about that. I'm tied to you like the buttons on your blouse. It's lovely. And these ways that we're tied to these memories and these ghosts, they're not just one way. They're not just one thing. And then the associations start coming, and I think of Ross Gay telling us how he puts on his button shirt in the morning and how delicate the practice is with his fingers to do something so kind and gentle as to put a button through the hole. He's a large man. He's tall, he's big, he works with his hands in the gardens, and then he does this tiny, delicate thing. And this is why poetry is so vital to this practice for me. It's through these associations that I am reminded where I come from and from where I can be going. I go from these places. I don't have to stay there to hold them. I don't have to live there to carry the story. But if I don't do the work of associating, I'll never remember who I am. Let's take a few breaths. If you're having difficulty finding your meditation posture, just find that place of balance in your body. This is not a practice of stress or strain or placing yourself into uncomfortable or painful positions. This is a non-violent practice of inviting yourself to the table. So find that balance and invite yourself in through the breath, lengthening the spine as much as you comfortably can without causing pain. Bring the shoulders together in the back, lift the head up, stand with confidence in your body. Feel the earth beneath you, whether it's through the chair you're on or the mat or the pillow. Maybe it's through your feet as you're standing at the counter. Wherever you are right now, just a few breaths. This is your invitation. This is your reassociating. When you breathe in, feel the openness of the inside of your body. Feel yourself filling your own body, like you're being poured into this vessel. Fill every nook and cranny, every open space. There it is. Breathe in. And let go. Stretch into your own being. You are allowed to take space. That's good. It's good to do. It's your body. Why not be in it? Why not be in it? I know that there's scary things that have happened there, and there's pain, and there's discomfort, and there's shame, and there's guilt, and there's fear, and all of those things. Yeah, that's true. But it's yours, damn it. It's yours. And once you can go into it, and you can find your invitation, and you can sit at that table of your own being, you'll find that there's a feast. There's a feast there, and you belong. And then the things that were scary aren't so scary anymore, like Casper the Friendly Ghost. Once you start making friends with those ghosts, they all are friends. They're all friends. They wouldn't be here otherwise. Let's have some tea with our friends. Ciao. All right. I'm going to step away for a moment. I just had the power strip that my computer was plugged into off, and I opened my eyes to see my computer begging for something to save it, which is appropriate for the poem that I chose this morning. I have been reading from Touch the Earth the last few weeks. I'll show that there. Touch the Earth, Poems on the Way by Drew Jackson. I found this because there was a foreword here by Padraig Ó Tuama, and we have a lot of affinity with Padraig on this my practice, my program, as a lot of love for Padraig Ó Tuama. And when I saw that he had written the foreword to this book, and I read what the book was, I was immediately interested. So I ordered it without having read any of it. And what I did not know is that Drew Jackson is a pastor of a Christian church, and that this book was a continuation of another book that I now have called God Speaks Through Wombs, Poems on God's Unexpected Coming. And this one has a foreword by Jean-Baptiste, one of my favorite current musicians. He's amazing. So there's a lot of these connections. But what I wasn't prepared for is that how this book was going to be this opening into my reassociating with a lot of painful memories growing up in the church. I'm not the only one who's experienced painful experiences from growing up in a church, whatever church it is. I know people who were raised in pagan communities with their second or third generation practitioners of different pagan practices who were raised in congregations of people practicing these things, and they were harmed by beliefs and by dogmas. And I know my friends that practice different Hindu practices, or people from Krishna consciousness and the Hare Krishna movement who have been harmed. So the way that God is given to us as children is oftentimes given to us by the pain of our parents. And that's a difficult thing for our little bodies to carry. God can become another word for pain. I think John Lennon said, God is a concept by which we measure our own pain. And I think that the reason God can become that, and for our parents, is because our parents are desperately, when we're children, desperately seeking salvation from their fear that they are failing, that they're failing us, that they've failed their parents. And then that gets passed on to us through so many different little ways. So God becomes painful. And then people use it as a weapon. When you can hurt somebody with something, it's a weapon. And then when you hurt so much that you want to hurt somebody, you've got a handy tool at your disposal to terrify children away from the devil and all of the sinning ways that some Sunday school teacher held shame and guilt in their heart for, and they pass it on to you as fear because they think that this is how they atone. A lot of us have these experiences that we've dissociated from, and I know that I ran like hell from God for many years of my life. It's funny how you can't get away from it, though, when it's at your core. And so I picked up this book today. This book is written by a pastor, and it's based on the book of Luke in the Bible. And anybody who is unfamiliar with the book of Luke, both of these books are based on the book of Luke. These poems, there's a response to certain verses. Each poem is a response. Luke is a book about movement, and it's a book about the revolutionary teachings of the Christ figure. And for this pastor to take on this challenge is such a meaningful thing to me, because I get so wrapped up in the fearful teachings that I forget about why Jesus was feared. I forget about that. And it's really juicy and it's really good. And it calls to that spirit in me to say, hey, we need to arrive with a fierce love right now. We're being asked to arrive into this day with a fierce love. People being killed in our streets and ignored all the time. Cale was killed and his shoes were left in the road to rot in the sun. Nobody cared. That requires a fierce kind of love to step forward. And I'm reminded of that with Luke. And this morning, on the trip of reassociating, I opened it to find this poem called Hosanna. And it's based on Luke 19, verses 36 through 38. A little bit of background here. Hosanna is oftentimes exchanged as a celebration of the Lord in Christian circles, but that's not what it is. The root of Hosanna is desperation. It actually comes from a Hebrew word which means save us, save me. This is a plea. And at this time in the book of Luke, Jesus is coming back into Jerusalem, and he knows what's coming. He knows that he's coming in, and there's going to be these interactions that are going to lead to his eventual crucifixion. And at this time, he's gone from being this weird little cult leader of a small group of people who are his disciples to being maybe possibly what's going to save these people from their colonization by the Romans. So they're saying to him, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. They're calling to him, saying, save us. And that's what's happening in Luke 19, 36 to 38. And Drew Jackson says, a cry of liberation from the lips of those who do not wish to maintain the status quo. A longing for Babylon, America, and Rome to be overthrown. Could our hosannas go deeper? Cut off the root of an empire's fruit. It's very brief, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty language. But it asks the strong questions at the end. Could our hosannas go deeper? And the poet here has put hosannas into italics, meaning this is a special moment. Could our hosannas go deeper? Cut off the root of an empire's fruit. And it really sent me into this trip of like, what is it that's deeper? What is it that's deeper than this anger about this regime, or this righteous rage that boils up every now and then, or this like deep-seated grieving that's taking place? What's deeper than that? Like in what way are these things the theater that my body is putting on for my benefit to get to the play? Like, what is the Leela? In the Hindi, it's the Leela. That's the play, the dance that love makes. And then I realized, like, I won't know until I go deeper, until I associate and reassociate and reassociate. And I've got to make those connections to figure out how to cut off that fruit at the root, how to get down there to really, and it has very little to do with some external empire, Babylon, America, Rome, as the poet says. Yeah, that's there, that's real, but there's something deeper, something older. There's something there, and we need to reassociate. And that term Hosanna, Hosanna, and it brought back memories, strong memories of standing in the church's Pentecostal church, the Holy Rollers speaking in tongues, and this is my childhood, and people are just overtaken by the Spirit as they're singing Hosanna in the highest, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. They're singing this over and over and over again, and it builds. It's building, and I had a strong memory of seeing my mother, so I wrote a poem in response to a poem that was a response to a poem. And this is my response. My response to Drew Jackson's poem, Hosanna, which is a response to Luke's poem in some book that was written a long time ago. We sang Hosanna in the highest, mouths drying in the song, In the still summer mid-morning swelter, your eyes closed, mine fixed on you. Yours were the first tears from closed eyes I can recall. The way even a closed fist cannot hold water and a closed mouth cannot sing, but it can hum and it can moan, and a closed mouth can say, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest, anything to take me away from here, from now, anything to let the tears be free, but for opening my eyes today, Lord, please hear our cries. So it took 35 years for me to write a poem about Hosanna. 35 years since I sat in those church pews, 35 years since maybe 36. I don't know. But it was one little poem that I read that opened me up to an invitation to reassociate. And that's what I'm talking about today in the contemplation is you have an invitation in your body right now to reassociate. And what you think may just be a ball of pain could just be a scary ghost that you need to make friends with. That's it. Let's take some breaths. Thanks for being here this morning. Is there any comments or questions?
I felt like, as usual, very aligned. I've been struggling with, letting the good things happen to me, and I'm very much blocked in my heart. Like it's physical, and relaxing into it and allowing that to open and let it come to me is extremely difficult. Your body holds it so tight. So to come in and reflect and be able to be like, hey, everybody struggles with it.
Yeah, it is physical. It is like we've talked about before, there is no separation between the physical, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional. Like this is all just ways that we are expressing our being, but it's very much, in my experience, rooted in physical feeling that I can open up and get to where the pain is. It's my friend Ian Fisher, and I've talked about this before on the show. He has an album that he just released where all of the songs were kind of written after his mother died last year, a little over a year ago. And he's a phenomenal songwriter. And he's always been really good at writing songs that were kind of about him, but kind of about anything. He's the great American songwriter, tradition of he can write songs about people. But this album is really, really personal. And he's talking about his mother who he loved dearly, and one of the songs is called Growing Pains, and he talks about, I thought that I'd be done with the pain of, what is the line? Man, it's such a good line. I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not even going to say it. He talks about, as an adult, believing he was done with this pain of being uncomfortable, or this pain of like not knowing what's next. Like we know what's next. We go through our lives and we do these things, and then all of a sudden this thing happens, and he's now reassociating himself all the way back to, his tethered connection to his mother, and he's realizing that the pain of saying goodbye is a growing pain. He's growing, and there's a moment where he's repeating, growing pain, growing pains, and I wrote to him and I said, hey, I don't know if you intended this and if this is what you're actually saying, but there's a moment where it changes from growing pains to grow in pain. And I was like, and that's kind of the mantra that I've been singing when I hear that song now. I sing grow in pain. And he replied, he's like, well, it wasn't, but now it is, because it is a physical pain. It's a physical feeling of tightness, of protection, of holding on to and grasping, that when we can get to it, we let it go. But it aches to do that. And there's a grieving that needs to take place of like, this thing is now opened and it's coming out. And that hurts. And hurt just requires somebody to say, yeah, that hurts. I see that. We don't need somebody to be like, oh, stop your crying. You're fine. We just want to be seeing somebody kiss our boo-boo. So yeah, that hurts. And that's why it's work in some ways. Is there anything else in your heart that you want to speak? Okay. Well, thanks for being here today. And thank you, anyone out there listening to this morning or at any moment. Reach out. I want to hear your stories as well. We want to share in communion with one another. I'd love to particularly hear about experiences that people have with religious injury and spiritual healing, how we can heal through our religious injuries to maybe learn and love and forgive even more than we thought we could. So if you want to share, I'd love to hear it. And send us a message, do it in the comments, or write me an email, journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Hari Om.